A day in the life of a Beachbody coach. What do we do day to day? What activities did I do to grow my business over the last 3 years? So I'm going to do 2 separate videos, or at least 2 separate topics of what I did the first part of my Beachbody coaching business when I was very first a brand new coach, and how that differs and how that looks now that my husband is home full time and I do this more full time. So when I first signed up, I was very overwhelmed by all of the information, by all of the different people telling me what I should be doing. And so I asked my coach, break it down for me, tell me the basics. And she taught me the 3 vital behaviors, which are inviting people, the second is personal development, and the third is being a product of the product. So when I would sit down to do my work, I would have a list of people that I was going to invite to my challenge group for that week, and I would send them an invitation, and I was focused on doing 2 to 5 people a day, or 10 to 25 people per week that I would invite to my challenge group. If they said no, no big deal, whatever, that was fine. If they said yes, great, we would move forward. I would explain it to them, and we would get them in a challenge group. That was the first thing I did, was I invited people to my challenge group. The next thing I would do was add new people to my contact list, right? Like we've talked about in our Coaching at a Glance group. That's great that I have a story to share, but who am I sharing it with? I have to have more people to talk to. So I worked on adding people to my contact list. Same thing, 2 to 5 people a day I would add to my contact list. I did that by looking through my Facebook friends and looking at their friends to see if there was someone I hadn't reconnected with in a long time, that maybe I was friends with in high school, that I was like, oh, I'm not connected with them on social media yet. And so I would add them to my contact list for later on, and work to build a relationship with that person while I waited for it to come up, or sometimes it just came up naturally. Other times it was 6 months down the road and I would send them an invite. It just depended. So inviting people to my challenge group was one. Adding new people to my contact list was another thing I did. And sometimes I would set a timer for 10 minutes, and this is what I preach to my team. Set a timer for 10 minutes and do each of those activities and get as much done as you can in 10 minutes or in 20 minutes if you're doing it separate. The third thing I would do was respond to the people I had invited to. So I would get into my messages on Facebook and I would respond to people who had written me back. The next thing I would do is focus on personal development, 10 minutes a day of reading a good book to help uplift me, teach me about running a business. We have recommendations for that for new coaches. The next thing I would do was making sure I was working on my own journey and walking the talk. So doing my workout, drinking my Shakeology. So those are literally what we preach to people. Extra things are things like posting on Facebook, which I did that as a new coach, talking about what I did in my life and trying to be a positive, uplifting person. But as I've grown, the only things I do differently now is I run a fitness page. So I respond to people on there. I comment. I respond to people's comments. I come up with new posts, film videos that I do, respond to messages on there. That's added in now, as well as training my team. So I will have phone calls with new coaches during the week. I run team calls at night once a week where we do a webinar on training for coaches on the team. But that's really the only thing that is different now from what it was before. I use my fitness page more now for invites. I don't send out like an invitation to my challenge group anymore. I will post about it on my page, and then I will pay so more people see the post. So I do a lot more from my fitness page now instead of inviting family and friends to my group, because I already did that, and I did that for a year before I started a fitness page. So the only difference now is I spend more time on coming up with trainings for my team and helping. I teach other people how to do what I did when I first signed up, but that's really the only difference. And I don't spend a whole lot more time than I did at first, other than training new coaches, and my fitness page does take a lot more time than before I ran it. So when I first signed up as a coach, I was spending 30 to 60 minutes a day because I was tried to be really focused with the time that I had. And then now I can get all of my essentials done in about an hour and a half, 2 hours. And then if I'm working on new training or I have phone calls, then I spend a little bit more time.